Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to this ICAS webinar on Making Tax Digital, or MTD for income tax, and how to get your practice ready. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Campbell, Head of Tax for Tax Practice and Owner Managed Business here at ICAS, and I have the pleasure of being your webinar host today. Following the publishing of the revised regulations in February this year, we now know that MTD for income tax will become a legal requirement from April 26 for self-employed taxpayers and landlords who have an income above 50,000, and from April 27 for self-employed taxpayers and landlords who have income above 30,000, except for those taxpayers, of course, who are exempt. So here at ICAS, our focus has now moved on whether MTD for income tax will go ahead to help our members prepare for its implementation. In April this year, HMRC launched the next stage in its testing programme, known as the private beta phase. This new phase will enable a larger pool of self-employed taxpayers and landlords to take part in testing HMRC systems, as well as their own readiness for MTD. This is before public beta is introduced in April next year, giving taxpayers and their agents a full year of testing their readiness for MTD before its mandation in April 26. Whilst we recognise that our members in practice who support unincorporated businesses might also be dealing with the challenges of basis period reform, ICAS is still encouraging our member firms to register some of their clients for private beta. Doing so will allow your practice to properly prepare and test the compatibility of your systems and those of your clients ahead of implementation. If every tax agent volunteered to put a handful of clients into the trial, this would give HMRC a broad spectrum of taxpayers and landlords to ensure thorough testing during the period when a more lenient penalty regime is in place. Taking part in the private beta will also give access to HMRC's dedicated support team for MTD. To help us explain and understand the changes that MTD for income tax will present, I'm delighted to be joined by Craig Ogilvie, HMRC's MTD Programme Director. Craig has enjoyed a career in the UK government spanning 20 years, holding several key roles in digital and data transformation. And following the onset of the COVID pandemic in March 2020, Craig was instrumental in helping the UK government deliver the furlough scheme as the project director of the coronavirus job retention scheme, which many of you will have been well used to at that time. Craig has played an integral part of several HMR projects since then, before moving into lead HMRC's flagship MTD programme as the programme director in late 2023. I'm also pleased to be joined by Lenny Barry from HMRC's MTD programme support team. Lenny has been on the MTD programme for over 5 years, and during this time he has worked in both VAT and ITSA, accumulating a wealth of knowledge and expertise. Indeed, many of you will know Lenny from previous workshops for MTD for VAT. Lenny has worked in the external communications team, but the majority of his time has been spent in agent engagement, and he's regularly involved in presenting on external webinars and events. Craig and Lenny will also be supported backstage by Sam Tennacoon and Steve McCune from HMRC's MTD team, who will be able to support with any questions you may have during the webinar. Before we begin, just a quick reminder of a few housekeeping matters. You can submit any questions at any time through the Q&A facility, which can be accessed at the top of your screen. Questions can be submitted anonymously if you wish. The HMRC team may answer some of the questions as we go, but we will come back to the key points at the end of the webinar for the live Q&A section if we have time. Please also join the conversation today through the chat box accessed at the top of your screen. This allows you to comment or discuss with fellow attendees on matters covered by this webinar. We are, of course, recording the webinar and will make it available for on-demand viewing afterwards in case you want to refer back to it or share it with others. And as ever, the slides will be available on the events page on the ICAS website under the events listing after the event. We look forward to receiving your questions throughout the course of the webinar, and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Now, I know there are a huge amount to get through, so without further ado, I'll pass straight over to Craig to get into the detail of today's webinar. Over to you, Craig, and welcome.
Thanks very much, Chris, for the warm welcome. You could just give me a little thumbs up and let me know that everyone can hear me okay. So I'm coming to you from Edinburgh today, and not a very sunny Edinburgh for anyone that's close. It's absolutely miserable. So without further ado, we will get into the detail today. So thanks for the introduction. It's been a privilege, certainly over the last 20 years, leading programmes in government, mainly HMRC, and I'm absolutely delighted to lead Making Tax Digital. So I think let me start by covering why we are introducing Making Tax Digital. Lenny will help throughout the course of today, going through a lot of the detail on the process and the design. And I think the thing that I want those listening to really think about is whether you agree with every part of the policy and the delivery, or whether you love it, or whether you don't like parts of it. It is now the time that everybody has to start getting ready, and there's lots of steps that we can all take to get us there. But today I'm going to explain what the testing program is like, and we're going to cover quite a bit of detail on what are the key components of it, but why do we believe this is the right thing to do? So I think the first thing to say is that Making Tax Digital for income tax will require self-employed individuals and landlords to keep digital records and send simple quarterly updates to HMRC. And we'll cover these later, and we'll hopefully myth bust quite a bit around these quarterly updates. They are not tax returns, they are simple quarterly updates. We'll touch on those later. So the changes are aimed to reduce the chances of customer making error. A large part of the tax gap is due to errors, and we believe, especially looking at the evidence from MTD for VAT, that this will really help reduce errors. We also believe there's a case for supporting productivity, and we also believe that ensuring customers having up-to-date, accurate information can, in some cases, help with business planning. And behind the scenes, what we'll talk about today is part of what we call the iceberg. There is a significant role in behind the scenes, moving all of these tax records onto a new modern tax system. That will allow us to use data much better, and it will allow us to be able to provide a much better customer experience, and we'll be able to unlock data that you've not had before. And we may tell you a little bit about that later. But fundamentally, the driver for doing this is all about making sure that we are reducing tax gap, and we'll touch on that as we go. So I'll just move us on to the next point. So by achieving all of the things I talked about in the previous slide, it really helps MTD and HMRC achieve our strategic objectives. Most prominently, MTD will help HMRC collect the right tax and pay out the right financial support. It will help us make it easier to get things right and harder to bend the rules. So it supports the government's economic aims through a resilient, more agile tax system. I think it's really important to put on record before we get into the VAT. I come at today's webinar that many who are listening today will be sitting thinking, I absolutely get MTD. I'm already using digital tools. This is a logical next step. Some people will say, yeah, I'm not overly worried. Some people will say, I don't like the policy. I don't like the concept of quarterly updates. I think what Lenny and I would like to impress today is we are not here to go into a huge debate. We absolutely respect everybody's opinions on that. What we want to do is to muster everybody's energy to get to the point where we do our best job in getting everyone ready for what is an absolute significant change. So if you're sitting at the other end of this webinar screen thinking, I just don't like this component of it, that's absolutely fine. I respect your views. I think the thing for me now as the program director is to deliver this program to the best of our ability and actually help everybody face up to the change and be ahead of the curve and actually be as ready as we possibly can be. So I just thought that's an important point to mention. But let's look back at MTD for VAT. I think it's important to think about where we've come. We did deliver Making Tax Digital for VAT on time for those registered above the threshold in April 2019, and those below the threshold came on line in April 2022. Keeping digital records and submitting VAT returns using compatible software is now default and the way that we do business in VAT in terms of fulfilling those VAT obligations. So I think, you know, we have got a track record now of getting VAT into a good position, and we do recognise that making tax digital for income tax self-assessment is a bigger change, and we will be really honest about that. And today is all about helping people understand what needs to be true to be ready. So just there has been an array of feedback in terms of making tax digital for VAT. 69% of a large-scale survey found it easy to comply with, and there is a range of benefits with regards to making tax digital for VAT. We have put one of those bits of feedback on the board today just for you to take a quick look at. But of course, with any change, we're constantly evaluating how it works. And while I've described to you some of the positives today, in terms of making tax digital for income tax, we've worked really hard with a whole host of stakeholders through a long period of co-design to improve how we're actually delivering making tax digital for income tax. And again, we'll touch on these as we go today. So if I could move us on, the next section about our current focus. So now that we've delivered making tax digital for VAT, our relentless focus is on MTD for income tax. We know it's bigger. We know that it is a bigger change for HMRC, and we know it is a bigger change for you. So we are constantly listening, and we're learning, and we're testing as we go. We are at the early parts of our testing period, what we call a private beta year, and we really want to encourage agents, accountants, customers to think what needs to be true now to be ready if you have an income over 50, a turnover over £50,000 in April 26. So I heard it described the other day that you're probably too late to be really early, but now is the right time to really engage and understand what has to be true. And I'm passionate that we manage this process through deep engagement with key stakeholders. And it just so happens that ICAS is a critical stakeholder, and a stakeholder who have been there at all the co-design sessions, making tax digital for income tax a better design over the last 24 months. It's a really great platform to be able to describe that to you today. I'll move us on in terms of describing and taking us back a few years. So in December 2022, it was announced that making tax digital for income tax would be delayed for 2 years. That allowed us more time to review the design of making tax digital, more time to get ready. We carried out a review of making tax digital that was published in the Small Business Review, and I would just like to reflect a bit on that Small Business Review. It looked at what could be done to make improvements within a broad framework of making tax digital principles. So we consulted in what we call co-designed with over 35 separate organisations on a whole wide range of matters, and we were extremely grateful for the input and the drive and the focus that was put into that, none more so than some of the professional bodies, including ICAS and including Chris, who is leading today's session. Chris has always been a strong vocal voice on what ICAS believe must be better to be in a better place to deliver making tax digital for income tax. So I think we did make various changes, and we listened as a result of that feedback. I won't go through all of them today, but I think it's really important to draw out a few of them. For example, from the start of the next testing year, which will be our big public year in April 2025, the updates for each quarter will not just be that quarter on its own, it will be what we call cumulative. And that allows error correcting, retrospective updates not to be too burdensome. It means that the income and expenses updates are much easier. That was a significant change. And following feedback, we decided from the go live amendation that we would map and have the same submission dates in the 7th of the month that we do in VAT. So if you can have a look here, quarterly updates now cumulative, support for 3-line accounts. We've removed EOPS or end of period statements, We've put in some easements for joint property owners. We have targeted exemptions. If you don't have a national insurance number, you're not in there. There's exemptions for foster carers. We recognise that multiple agent functionality is really important. Many businesses will choose to deploy, for example, a bookkeeper, and being able to access different levels or provide different levels is really important. And I'm really pleased to say that we are in really good shape to be able to offer multiple agent access during the private beta year, which is the 25-year in advance of mandation. So it was publicly committed we would have that before mandation, and we're at the moment in good shape to be able to deploy that in the next tax year, and I'm really pleased about that. And as I mentioned, we've aligned VAT and its quarterly updates together. I do recognise that there is a significant amount of other changes that I've not fully went through today. We'll perhaps pick these up as we go, but I think the important point to remember is that we've listened, and it gives us a stronger base to move forward from. So, in reflecting back, as the person accountable for Making Tax Digital, the biggest question that I get is, will you be ready for April 2026? And I think in delivering any significant complex major program, there's lots of variables. This is in digitalization terms a massive program to deliver. Over the last 12 months, we have achieved every significant milestone relating to Making Tax Digital for income tax self-assessment. We've slowly but surely built up greater confidence in industry, even stronger partnerships with the software market, and we know we're at the early stages of testing, so we don't sit here today telling you that everything's absolutely fine and everything's hunky-dory. What I can say is that we're confident we are in a good position to fulfill the legislation from April 2026. So if you take away two messages from today, I think those messages would be MTD is on track for April 2026. And what do you need to do to be ready and be ahead of the curve for that period? We'll hopefully answer lots of questions that will be able to help you along in that journey. But without further ado, I think now's probably a good time to hand over to my esteemed colleague Lenny Barry, who'll talk you through some of the really critical detail that we all need to gather around and think, how does that play in, and how does that help us get ready over the next few years? But thank you very much for allowing me to do a bit of an intro, and Lenny, over to you.
Fabulous. Thanks very much, Craig, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. We've got a lot of content to get through. I'll do my very best to get through it so we can have some questions at the end, but please, if something arises during the presentation, put your question in the Q&A and my colleagues Sam and Stephen will respond to you. So we'll do a little bit more in detail about what Making Tax Digital is and how we are covering the testing program, and maybe some suggestions of what you might want to think about in terms of your own practice readiness. So from April 2026, self-employed individuals and landlords with combined income from self-employment and property that totals over £50,000 gross will be legally required to keep digital records and send quarterly updates to HMRC using compatible software. Those with a total income over £30,000 will have to do this from April 2027. Self-employed individuals and landlords with qualifying income below £30,000 will also be able to sign up voluntarily so they can benefit from the changes. The Making Tax Digital for Income Tax threshold test is based on income, not profit, from self-employment and/or property only. That basically is the information that is included on the current SA 103 and SA 105. The MTD mandation test does not consider other income, such as PAYE income, dividends, or bank interest. These are not part of the criteria and can still be reported annually as now. Here is a simple graphic to show MTD for income tax on a page. On the left are the key elements involved. Firstly, businesses must keep digital bookkeeping records. This could be in a bookkeeping package or even in a spreadsheet. If using a spreadsheet, you would require to have additional bridging software linked to the spreadsheet to enable it to make the filings. Secondly, quarterly updates of the summary totals of income and expenditure broken down by category, unless using three-line accounts, must be sent to HMRC using MTD for income tax compatible software. And finally, there will be a simplified end-of-year process, the digital tax return, that will be completed in MTD compatible software or HMRC's online submission service. This enhanced end-of-year process will be faster and more efficient than today, building from information in the quarterly updates and benefiting from increased auto-population of other information that HMRC already holds, such as PAYE information. On the right-hand side, we have the timeline. Taxpayers can join the testing programme on a voluntary basis at any time, regardless of their income levels. We are currently in the first of 2 testing phases, and we'll be asking you to consider joining the 24-25 testing later in this webinar. We'll expand testing in 25-26 with legal mandation commencing for those with income above 50,000 in April 26 and those above 30,000 from April 2027. So let's look at the quarterly updates. What exactly are they? The quarterly updates are the unadjusted summaries of income and expenditure within that quarter. The information is broken down by categories aligned to the SA 103 and SA 105 unless using three-line accounts. Every 3 months, your MTD software should total the digital records and produce summaries for the income and the expenditure. These are known as the quarterly updates. You will need to submit those summary totals through your MTD compatible software each quarter before the deadline the month after the quarter end. And this can often be done with the single click of a button. You do not need to make any tax adjustments before sending the quarterly updates. These tax and accounting adjustments can be done at the end of year, as is the case now. Therefore, the updates are simple summaries of income and expense only, and they are not for tax returns. If you're using a spreadsheet to keep the digital records, it will be a simple date range summary for income and the same for expenditure. You can then submit the quarterly update from the spreadsheet by using an MTD compatible bridging software digitally linked to the spreadsheet. Quarterly updates are to be provided in respect of the 3 month periods based around the tax year. This is irrespective of the client's accounting date. Therefore, all MTD for income tax mandated taxpayers will file to the same periods. The first quarter will start on the 6th of April and end on the 5th of July with a filing deadline of the 5th of August. Similarly, for July to October, with a filing deadline of the 5th of November, and so on. As previously mentioned, the Small Business Review accepted the request to align the filing deadlines for VAT, but this change hasn't been made in our systems yet, so at mandation, the filing deadline will be the 7th of the month, but during the testing programme, it's the 5th. But I would just like to point out there are no penalties for filing late quarterly updates during the testing programme. There will also be an option to formally elect to file to calendar quarters, which aligns the filing quarters to month-end periods rather than the 6th to the 5th of the month. This selection can only be made in your MTD compatible software and must be done before the first filing deadline. It would mean that quarter 1 would be the 1st of April to the 30th of June, Quarter 2 would be the 1st of July to the 30th of September, and so on. If making a calendar quarter election, there would be no change to the filing deadlines. And from mandation, that would be the 7th of the month to align with VAT. It is said that making tax digital for income tax is likely the biggest change to income tax administration since self-assessment was introduced in the 1990s. We know that change can be challenging, and there are significant changes for taxpayers, software developers, agents, and for HMRC. That's why we want to work with and support all of those sectors. We are all in this together, and we all want it to land successfully. This webinar will focus on the agent sector. There are an estimated 1.75 million taxpayers who will be mandated to use Making Tax Digital for income tax. Around 1.25 million only have income from self-employment. 250,000 only have income from property. And around 250,000 have income from both self-employment and property. Around 69% of the mandated population currently have an agent. Therefore, we would expect the majority of MTD filing will likely be done by agents. There are many reasons why HMRC and other large organisations are enhancing their digital services. We'll quickly look at just a few. HMRC is a very large and complex organisation. We deal with every taxpayer in the UK and many more customers besides. Our customers contact us every day and in varying ways. Here you can see the 22-23 statistics. Over 145 million customer contacts by online means, and nearly 57 million contacts by phone and by post, all of which get processed and actioned, but the customer perception of the service level varies by channel. Our contact centre colleagues work extremely hard to serve the UK public and receive praise for their ability to help and resolve queries once the call is answered. Here is an example of some of the challenges we face. In 2023, we received over 3 million phone calls about just 3 topics. Those 3 things were, can you tell me what my national insurance number is? I've forgotten my password. Can you help me reset it? And where can I see my employment history? Now, during that period, 3 million calls was roughly the number of calls we received in total in a non-peak month. So a full month of capacity was tied up with information that could have been easily self-served. Of course, each call was important to the customer at that time, but all of those tasks could be easily resolved by looking online in their personal tax account or on the HMRC app. Of course, MTD is just one part of a wider push for increased digitalisation across HMRC. The HMRC app is proving very popular and provides an easy and efficient route for customers to self-source much of that simpler information. A huge number of customers have signed up in the last 12 months, and the app receives very high customer satisfaction ratings in the App Store and Google Play Store. Have you downloaded the HMRC app? Maybe you could encourage your clients to do so. Open banking is integrated with the HMRC app and most banking apps. You can even log into the HMRC app using biometrics. You can usually do the same for most online banking apps. This means there could be little need to access passwords or payments references, as when you hit Pay in the HMRC app, it automatically moves you to your banking app where the payment details are pre-populated. So all you need to do is review and click Pay Now. This helps everyone. The payment is auto-allocated, meaning that it goes to the right place in our back-end systems, and nobody is chased for a debt they don't owe. That in turn frees up HMRC resource for higher value work and allows agents more time to serve their clients rather than trying to get the payment reallocated. Pay by Bank is a great example of using digital solutions to remove little bits of grit from the tax administration system. While small on their own, the impact of lots of small digital improvements add up and can make a huge difference in total. HMRC is built on the right tax, right time principle. We aim to collect the tax that is rightly due at the right time. In the current self-assessment annual reporting cycle, this induces a long lag between the point of transaction and reporting. This gap of up to 21 months between a transaction and it resulting in a tax charge could increase the chance of errors. How many clients misremember the purpose of an expense? How many lose fuel receipts or forget other small transactions altogether? Through HMRC's annual tax gap publications, it is estimated that the self-assessment business tax gap is £5.9 billion in absolute terms for the 22-23 tax year. This is not made up of a few large issues. Instead, analysis repeatedly shows that this is usually made up of many small errors and failure to take reasonable care. That implies that a significant share of this tax gap comes from innocent error, likely, at least in part, linked to poor record-keeping practices. A core ambition of Making Tax Digital is to provide support and processes to improve customer record-keeping and provide support before filing. And that, in turn, helps reduce errors. That's about getting it right first time. This graphic is just to highlight some of the amount going on. For agents and clients, the focus may be above the waterline of this iceberg, with the introduction of digital record keeping, quarterly updates, and submitting tax returns through compatible software. That's the bit of MTD that you all see right now. But as you know, most of an iceberg is below the waterline, and HMRC has an awful lot going on when it comes to MTD and the wider digital transformation it enables. For instance, more service improvements will be seen in the future as MTD customers' records will be moved onto one new IT system. This will allow customers to see their records in one place and for HMRC to deliver a better customer experience with more digital functionality. A core part of Making Tax Digital is working with our software providers and building our application programming interfaces. We're building those APIs and on top of the new IT system. This will mean we're able to communicate with the third-party software in a more simple and secure way. To avoid unfairly punishing people who make occasional minor mistakes, we are introducing a new, fairer penalty regime alongside Making Tax Digital for income tax. And finally, you shouldn't have to give us information we already hold. So, powered by a more joined-up back-end system on the enterprise tax management platform, we are facilitating more auto-population of year-end data into the end-of-year digital tax return. This will be filled with information we already hold, such as PAYE and CIS values, making the end-of-year process faster and more efficient for everyone. And of course, there is one further very important additional aspect. We're looking to support the transition that agents will need to make to get their practice and their clients ready for Making Tax Digital for income tax. Let's just take a quick look at a few of those aspects. HMRC have a large work programme to re-platform onto a new IT system. We're rebuilding self-assessment on top of that programme and we also need to cleanse and migrate existing taxpayer records. HMRC administer many taxes. Most taxes were historically built on their own back-end systems, but this back-end fragmentation often makes it difficult to see a single joined-up view of a business or taxpayer, as most are involved in a range of taxes with data across numerous systems. A business could be interacting with PAYE, national insurance, VAT, and corporation tax, all of which are on different technology systems. MTD is supporting and enabling the move to a newer single IT platform, which will provide additional functionality that will benefit customers and our contact center colleagues. The Enterprise Tax Management Platform will provide a consolidated, modern, flexible IT backend. In time, this integrated IT system will provide us with the opportunity to pull together information from standalone systems to produce a more joined-up view of the customer. This means we can provide a better, more holistic view of the customer and provide better support and increase the amount of auto-population of information we already hold. As MTD consolidates information on the Enterprise Tax Management Platform, we will immediately benefit from greater auto-population in the MTD Income Tax digital tax return. More information will be auto-populated at the year end, ready for a check and review by the customer and their agent. Here you can see what is auto-populated in the current self-assessment service and what can be pre-populated in MTD. You can see that SIS tax information, benefits in kind data, employment expenses, all state benefits, SA and PAYE coded underpayments, and capital gains tax payment on property disposal will all be available in time. We want to help customers get tax right first time. That means helping people before they file their end of year tax return. Enabled on ETMP, HMRC have made a new in-year nudges and prompts service available to software developers who wish to incorporate it into their MTD products. This new service will provide tailored feedback messages to customers and their agents to support the individual customer reduce errors in their tax filings. This tailored messaging service will be available at quarterly update points and during the end of year filing process. The service will encourage your clients to submit accurate information using personalized real-time prompts, in turn reducing avoidable errors. The tailored feedback will help your clients get it right first time and flag where something may be wrong. Where necessary, links to guidance on gov.uk will be provided to your client to help them correct any error they may have made. All of this will help support your clients get it right first time. With MTD for income tax comes a new, fairer penalty system. For MTD for income tax, there will be new penalties for late submissions and late payments. The changes aim to simplify late submission and late payment penalties, making them fairer and more effective. The new late submission penalties will work on a points-based system like the system we brought in for VAT. For each obligation submitted late, the customer will receive a penalty point until they reach the penalty point threshold, which will trigger a charge. Penalty points can drop off following a period of continuous compliance. Late payment penalties are built around the idea that the sooner you pay, the lower the penalty rate will be. It will be calculated based on how much the customer has outstanding and how late they are in paying their tax balance. Further guidance will be published on gov.uk in due course. Customers will need compatible software to file updates and comply with Making Tax Digital for income tax. This software or set of digitally linked connected software products will be used to keep digital records and send quarterly updates, and in some cases submit their final digital tax return where the software allows. Others can do this through a new ATMP-based online tax return service. The software choices pages on gov.uk show the products that are available now and also shows which software developers have products in development. There are 7 products available now, and others will be added in the weeks and months ahead. So we need to test the MTD for income tax customer journeys. We need to test the third-party software integrations and the back-end systems in a live environment. We have 2 main testing phases. This year, 24-25, we have a small testing phase. We're inviting volunteers to join the testing program to start their MTD readiness journey. This will allow us and our software partners the opportunity to test the quarterly update submissions and the end-of-year digital tax return in the live environment. We're not looking for huge numbers this year. Rather, we are looking for volunteers with specific items to test in a controlled and supported way. And that's where you may be able to help us. Following this, in 25-26, we will expand testing to help test the customer support models and the operations of the systems across more customer circumstances. This testing will allow us to refine and improve the system ahead of the legal mandation dates of April 26 and April 27. We are testing 4 key areas: the IT functionality of both the third-party software and the HMRC APIs, the customer experience and HMRC's back-end support models and technology. We want to test the varied MTD customers, as many varieties as we can. A sole trader with no other source of income is one important journey to be tested. But a sole trader who has dividends or bank interest or a student loan or property are other customer journeys that we need to test. Positive customer experience is vital, and testing now allows us to refine and improve. Is our guidance clear? Can agents and taxpayers follow the process and send what they are required to send? What elements can be improved? We know that with your help and feedback in the testing program, we will make it better. And finally, HMRC need to be able to receive and correctly process the data being sent to us. So it is essential we test our internal processes with live data. For agents, we know that you want to be subject matter experts to support your clients, to know the ins and outs of the process early so you can inform your teams and build processes to match the MTD cycle. Joining the testing program before mandation will give you early access and insight into that new process, which will give you a better idea of what will be involved for the rest of your client base and help you start planning how to make the transition. Mandation starts in April 2026. That's around 20 months away, which isn't long in the great scheme of things. Being in the testing program will help you understand what is involved and be better able to inform and support your clients. There's no substitute for having a go. The testing program provides the opportunity to give HMRC and software developers feedback, helping us refine and improve the processes. If something goes wrong, and some things likely will because it is a testing program after all, we will work with the client, agent and the software developer to resolve any issues quickly. And to reiterate, there will be no penalties for late quarterly update submissions during the testing phase. A significant customer benefit of the testing phase is a dedicated customer support team who will deal only with agents and clients who are in the testing program. They will deal with any MTD matter quickly and efficiently on a dedicated MTD helpline. Additionally, they will offer wraparound support for any personal tax issues for clients in the 24-25 testing program. Whilst we are testing, there are some restrictions on who can take part as we introduce new functionality throughout the year. Here you can see a list of the must-haves, can-haves, and the can't-haves. The must-haves are the most important. The client must have a national insurance number. They must have already been registered for SA, and they must have submitted at least one self-assessment return. Now, looking at that right-hand column, that does seem a long list of can't-haves, but it really is a small proportion of the mandated population who have these circumstances. Right now, our estimates show around 1 million customers are eligible to join and can be supported in the testing program. To help you navigate the current eligibility list more easily, we've included an eligibility checker function at the start of the sign-up journey. Agents can click through the first 4 screens of the sign-up journey, adding basic client information such as the name, date of birth, and NINO, and the system will give you a response as to the client's eligibility status. We suggest you do this before you speak to your clients about joining, as it will ensure the client can actually sign up. Sign up takes 3 key stages. Check if your client or clients are eligible, and this is easily done using the eligibility checker on the sign up page on gov.uk. You will need to make sure you have compatible third-party software. Again, you can check on gov.uk for which providers currently have software products available. You will also see products with the providers which will be coming in the coming months. You need to contact your software provider to let them know that you're interested to sign up to the testing phase. Make sure you read the guidance to understand what is required of you and your client as part of the testing program, and then sign up, and that's you or your client already signed up. On average, it's taking volunteers under 5 minutes to complete the full sign-up process. We recommend that you sign up for the testing phase as soon as possible and can start with just 1 client. You can join any time during the year. Now, there's been much to think about in this webinar. Agents should start thinking about how to get their practice and their clients ready for MTD for income tax. We've published a lot of guidance on gov.uk and will continue to update and publish more. You may wish to consider your client base. Who will be best suited to this change? Who is already keeping digital records? Who will need more information and help? Please do make time to make plans. If you do not have an agent services account, look to create one. It doesn't commit anyone to MTD for income tax, but it is one necessary thing that can be done easily right now. Look at your software options. What is your current provider doing regarding MTD? And if you are able, do look to sign clients up to the testing program. It really does help. Here we've broken down a few steps that agents might wish to consider to be ready to operate MTD. These steps can perhaps be considered the readiness golden thread and summarised as follows. Educate yourselves and clients over the changes, both for Making Tax Digital for income tax and the associated penalty reform. Get software, both for yourself and for your client if required. Ensure that you have an agent services account and the client authorizations are correct. Begin to operate MTD principles, keeping digital records, making submissions. and completing the digital tax return at the end to finish the tax year. You may wish to consider running a client segmentation exercise. This would act as an audit of the current client base and their associated digital needs, and may help you understand the scale of change effort that is likely to be required when guiding clients from as is to the to be, where to be is fully MTD for income tax compliant by the mandation date. In essence, you'll be creating a spreadsheet of all your clients and identifying their characteristics that will help you understand their likely MTD status, any additional support required, and the operating impacts on the firm. It may go something like this. List all your clients, identify traders and landlords separately, assess their turnover levels to assess their likely MTD status. Identify subpopulations and key characteristics, such as splitting the client base by industry sector, clients who already are keeping digital records, clients already using MTD compatible software. Identify VAT register clients, as these will likely be good candidates for early volunteers. Consider clients with multiple trades and/or properties. What software support is needed? Using this data, begin to impact the change for your firm. What changes will be required? Consider any clients that may need additional assistance. Create a transition timetable and plan. Communicate your plans and changes to your affected clients. We've covered a lot in this webinar. Hopefully you've found the information helpful. We hope you will now consider signing up some of your clients to voluntary testing this year. The sign-up process is a simple 3-step process. Check the eligibility of the client, make sure you have MTD compatible software, and then, with client permission, sign them up to the testing program. And that is the end of our presentation. I'll hand you back to Chris.
Well, thank you very much, Craig and Lenny, for that overview of lots of issues that our members need to be thinking about when considering how to prepare for MTD for income tax for their clients. We've had lots of questions coming through while you were speaking, and thanks to the team behind the scenes for answering some of them as we go. I think it would probably be quite helpful just to touch on a few common themes, because these relate to some of the things that I've heard from people when I've been speaking to them. The first one, you've talked a lot, Lenny, about software during your session. One of our members has asked about how there's a few different threads. First of all, is that they're concerned about the cost of the software, but also about free software and whether that might be available to help support. Craig, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, and I absolutely get the sentiment. So I think the first thing I'd start with is that it's tax is a part of how you run your business, or if you're self-employed. We appreciate it's not the be-all and end-all, so there isn't just one size fits all. So it's not Lenny and I saying today, go to one of the major software providers and have a full package. There are choices. So we're working with industry on what free software looks like for the simplest affairs. So watch this space as we develop that proposal with industry. There is some free options there at the moment, but as things test and grow, watch that space. Obviously, spreadsheets and the ability to use my brain's gone dead. The ability to use
bridging software.
Bridging software is absolutely thanks for helping me out there, Lenny. Is still an option. There is accounting packages. There's tax software. So there is a range of options. What we're not here to do today is say this is the option that's right for you, and we are working with industry on that. You can also receive help from people who are even more in the know than HMRC, such as Chris, who's on here today. Because I think one of the key things that you have to think about, over and above what Lenny's covered is how are you going to get ready for this change? And there is additional routes, including ICAS and other professional bodies that can help you with that information. So it's not one size fits all, I'd say, Chris. We are aware and we understand that there is a cost attached to MTD, but there are options here, and we'll continue to work those through as well.
Thanks very much, Craig. Now, you mentioned about signing up for private beta, and we've had a few questions on that from different aspects. One person has asked about how they would sign up for testing for themselves as opposed to their client for running their own business. And we've also had some questions about HMRC's additional support that you mentioned from the MTD specialist team, Lenny. So how would our members go about accessing that as part of signing up before they're required to legally?
So anyone can join the testing program, and we would encourage your members to consider bringing in 1 or 2 clients. So they would go onto gov.uk, you would search sign up for MTD for income tax. It would take you to the sign up page. It would ask you the client's first name, their last name, their national insurance number, and their date of birth. You would click on the eligibility checker and it would say whether they're eligible to sign up or not. If they are eligible, there's another 4 minutes worth of information to be completed. And once you're in the testing program, we would send you information regarding the customer support team. So there is a dedicated phone line, 8 till 6, Monday to Friday. There's also an email helpline, and they are some of the best people we have in the contact center be able to do that for you. All of them have got self-assessment experience, and many of them have been through MTD for VAT with us. And that dedicated support line is only available to agents and clients who have signed up to the testing program.
And just to emphasize the point you made, Lenny, that it wasn't just their MTD queries, it was broader self-assessment queries for anyone who signed it up, because that could be an extra benefit for many of our members who are watching this webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a little bit of a Brucey bonus insofar as the team will also answer any personal tax query for clients who are in the testing program.
Thanks very much, Lenny. We've had a few questions around the quarterly updates and the distinction between that and a full quarterly return. And I think that's an important distinction to make. Our members are asking about how accurate do the returns need to be, and also will HMRC be able to inquire into a return that's incorrect? What issues do our members need to be aware about from that point of view?
So if someone asks me how accurate do the quarterly updates need to be, the answer is we'd like them to be as accurate as possible. Is it going to be 100% accurate? I would doubt it. Many tax returns are not 100% accurate, even after accountants have gone through them. We also have to be pragmatic and realistic. This is a big change for some clients to be keeping digital records. If the digital records are kept up to date and are accurate, then they should be pretty close to be able to be providing the best available information. So Q1, 6th of April to the 5th of July. If you're, as an agent, you're looking at those records in the middle of July and the client is up to the 5th of July, that would be fantastic. If they're up to the 26th of June, then there's another couple of weeks for them to catch up. But equally, we have to expect that people will not get it right first time 100%. But in Q2, it'll be a little bit better. In Q3, it'll be better still. And in Q4, they'll be getting the hang of it, and fingers crossed, they'll be getting as close to 100% as they can.
Yeah, Lenny, just to build on that, we will be supportive and sensitive in the rollout of this. This is about improving record keeping, bringing it closer to real time, and the quarterly update is an important behavioural part of that. But we will be sensitive, and I think Lenny hits the nail in the head that it's our job to help people adjust to what is a big change for everyone. But ultimately, when I've heard accountants speak about this, we should encourage people to make them as accurate as they possibly can do, and we should help them get that right as we move along.
Thanks very much. Thanks both. We've had a few questions in recent weeks from our members about the exemptions for those taxpayers who, for whatever reason, who are rightly exempt, and many of them will have claimed an exemption for MTD for VAT. So there's two questions that would come from that. The first is in terms of whether those exemptions for MTD for VAT would automatically roll into MTD for income tax. And the other is that people have fed back that it was a challenge to get the MTD for VAT exemptions processed ahead of when they were required to do that. And when do you expect that the process to be available so that members who know that their clients will be exempt can make the application and then move on to focus on those that they want to work with for getting ready for MTD when it comes in, either when it comes in or if they want to go for the private meter?
So the exemption process, if a client is exempt from MTD for VAT or other online filing, that will be carried forward automatically into MTD for income tax. So we would encourage agents not to resubmit an application because that would just clog the system. We're also conscious that some people think they may have new applications to make, and we're looking to open the exemptions process from April 2025 to allow plenty of time for the process to be gone through and exemptions to be awarded ahead of mandation in April 2026.
Thanks very much, Lenny. Well, we are now almost out of time. Craig and Lenny, thank you again for joining us and for giving us such a comprehensive coverage of the issues that our members need to be thinking about when they are preparing their practice for MTD for income tax. Sorry we didn't manage to get through all the questions, but we will compile some Q&A document. We'll compile a document and upload that alongside the recording of this webinar. Please remember that you can keep up to date with all the latest tax and other professional news, including latest information, guides and resources on icast.com. You can access technical support through the ICAST Technical Help Desk, available through the Contact Us section of our website. This covers audit and accounting, tax practice, support, and AML and ethics. It would be great if you could leave us a rating for today's webinar. There will be a poll appearing on your screens now or in the chat box at the top of your screen. We really appreciate your feedback, so please take a few moments to respond before logging off today. Looking ahead, we have a range of webinars in the next few weeks that you might want to be thinking about. On the 22nd of October, my colleague Justine Riccobney from the ICAST tax team will present an update of the latest employment tax cases developments over the last year. On the 24th of October, I will be back to give an update of the tax issues that you need to be aware of when advising your partnership clients. And looking forward to November, you can join our award-winning virtual event to connect with the big ideas that are shaping the way that you live and work. You can hear from leading voices in business, technology, economics and politics, with interviews, panel discussions and interactive sessions, all from the CA Summit studio. And if you are in London and are interested in what the future holds for professionals, how technology is changing roles, working in the public interest, and what society might need from professions in the future, then you can sign up to our Beyond the Numbers conference in London on the 8th of October. Links to sign up to all ICAST events are available at icast.com/events. It only leaves me to thank Craig and Lenny once again for their excellent insight, and of course you, the audience, for joining the webinar today. I hope that it has been useful for you. So until the next time, it's goodbye.